Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, no need for a sigh today. Wow, that was quite the night, wasn't it? That might just stick around in the memory bank for a little while, actually a long time. By the way, you might hear some noise and wind swirling around in the background because Storm Bert is working its way across the UK. I'd say last night there was probably Storm Ange, Storm Spurs, that absolutely blew through the Etihad Stadium and swept Man City away, swept the champions away. That's got to be the best performance of the Postecoglou era so far. It has to be. Everything about it was such a complete performance. I can imagine Postecoglou after the game being a little bit like Robert De Niro in Analyze This with Billy Crystal, saying to the players, you're good, you're very good. Because this is how they should be playing every week. And I know that sounded nothing. I wasn't even trying to do a De Niro impression. But, this is how Spurs should be playing every single week, regardless of the opposition. I'm not talking about, you're not going to be able to replicate every element of that, but you're going to be able to replicate the hard work, the effort, the endeavour. That's all it is. It's just not changing how you play, regardless of who's lining up in front of you. It shouldn't matter whatsoever. It's just brilliant all round. You've heard me say probably many times before, hate going to the Etihad, hate going to the Emirates. Always feel that they're the two ones I just dread. I just feel like there's something bad's coming. I set my expectations through the floor just so that anything else is a bonus. I'm like, whoa, that was a hell of a bonus. It was just terrific. And I was watching after the game, after the final whistle, and Ange Postecoglou kind of walked over to the fans, obviously the away fans. What a day, how much did that performance make the 8-hour round trip that many of us probably did just so worth it? It was a horrible trip. It was wet, it was windy, it was just disgusting. But when you get a night like that, it kind of becomes part of the experience. You kind of think like, we played our part, we got there, and we got there to kind of see a little moment that we'll always remember. 90 plus minutes of just so much for us to kind of dive into and enjoy. Isn't this nice that we're not this video there's barely any negatives because it was just such an all-encompassing performance, and just absolutely set the benchmark now for Spurs. And Postecoglou went over to those fans after the final whistle, just had this little moment, as he always does after a win. Just had this moment with them, and to be fair, after defeat as well, he does the same thing. But just went over there, held his fist aloft in the air kind of thing, and applauded them all. They were singing his names. And I guess, he knew that they'd been... That's always his big thing. He wants the fans to be rewarded for their efforts, and that's exactly what happened. They sang their hearts out. You'll always hear me going mad about the travelling fans because they're so fantastic. The away group that just follows this club everywhere is so good, come rain, come shine, whatever's happening there. And bearing in mind how that game started and the Etihad crowd, all you could hear from probably about minute 13 onwards was the Spurs fans. They were just... And that's not to say they weren't singing before that, it's just the crowd were loud around them before that point. Because this was meant to be City's kind of big day, their party. But Spurs were the party poopers. Rodri, before the game, there was this kind of really lavish ceremony on the pitch for him as the Ballon d'Or winner, with like his name lit up behind him, the whole thing laid out over the pitch, a big montage before, and he was holding it aloft. And it could have been quite intimidating for Spurs. You've got Pep Guardiola's just signed a new contract extension. It's like more years of success at City, kind of. They've got this the world's best player. And you're looking at the array of talent, the amount of players they had coming back to like De Bruyne on the bench, Grealish back on the bench, and just their team, Haaland in there that we didn't get to see in the Carabao Cup match. And it could have been really intimidating because, especially that first 10 minutes, the crowd was noisy and everything. Yet, I think if City and Guardiola have a kryptonite, it is named Tottenham Hotspur. There's just something about it, isn't it? Yeah, they've beaten Spurs a few times, and then, sometimes on the important occasions like the Carabao Cup final, but just on the whole, Spurs got this weird thing over them. It's just the way they play just gets in between all the cracks of the way City will play, and they hate it. And this was the most brutal takedown of Man City from Spurs that I've seen in my kind of memory. We've seen some decent, very good performances, not even decent, very good performances. This was just brutal is the best word. It just destroyed them. Look, they had their moments. We're going to talk about that as well. City, they had their chances. But Spurs, I just felt, could have kept scoring. There could have been more than 4-0. Yeah, I mean, look, to win 4-0 against the champions is something special. To do it in their own backyard, where City have not lost once for 52 matches and about 2 years, is even more remarkable. It was City's worst home defeat in more than 2 decades. I think it's 21 years. And it's the first time Pep Guardiola has lost a Premier League game by 4 goals, by a margin of 4 goals. It just was brilliant. And even Guardiola said afterwards, when you lose 0-4, there's nothing to say except to congratulate Tottenham. Yeah, like I said, City could have scored goals. We're not pretending that they didn't have chances. Absolutely not. They had 23 shots. But I kind of felt, again, could be wrong, but I never felt that they looked as dangerous as Spurs did when Spurs were going forward with the ball. Vicario had to pull off a couple of saves. I wouldn't say any of the saves he had to make were like a worldie or anything like that, whereas I did think that Ederson made a couple of those. He made very good saves. I don't want to do down what Vicario, I felt, probably had his best performance in a Spurs shirt, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I kind of felt there was quite a few moments when I think previously I would have seen the likes of Haaland going through on goal, or Foden getting into the box, or Savinho getting into the box, and I kind of thought, oh, here we go. But actually, I don't know. I just kind of, you just saw either the ball sailing over the bar, or you saw a timid shot, or you saw Vicario pull off these 1v1 saves that he can be very good at making. And I didn't particularly worry. I don't know why. It's weird. But in contrast, Spurs going in the other direction, 7 of their 9 shots were on target. And they could have scored more than they thought they did. You know, you had Ederson made a brilliant save from a Sonny curling shot from outside the box, which we were right on the angle where the press box is, and it was like, it's curling and it's so good. It's not. And the birthday boy as well, James Maddison, 28 years old yesterday. Great finish, great goal, just a thing of quality and battling. It kind of showed both elements to how Spurs played yesterday. 7 minutes later, that was all it was. 7 minutes after that, and we get goal number 2. Spurs win the ball high up the pitch, pressing. Vardiol makes a mistake, hits a loose ball across the City half. Maddison and Son, lovely little combo. Maddison decides to run around Son in a circle. Sonny just plays. The ball is sumptuous. Kulusevski's ball for the first goal is a beautiful thing from distance. Sonny's one was this intricate, lovely ball into Maddison's path, who takes it so well into his run, and then just dinks that little chip. A completely different finish to the first one. Clipped it over Ederson. It's the kind of ones where you get to enjoy that moment where you see it kind of going into the net as you're running away to celebrate. Not that I've ever been in that position, but at a far, far, far lower level, I've scored a few goals like that. I don't know why I'm bigging it up. Look at me playing at the lowest possible level you could probably get in football. Just a huge team performance. So, so good. Maddison said afterwards, that's the real Spurs today. That's the one that we train towards. That's the one we work towards. That 90 minutes there is what we want Spurs to be, and what we have got to strive to be there more consistently. Within this answer that Postecoglou gave me, he told me that he never felt that the Spurs players ever doubted his weight, despite all the noise from the outside, and that this performance really kind of showcased what he wants his players to do. He said, I really think we've progressed as a team. I think we're a better team this year than we were last year. But we've had some real flat spots, to say the least, that have not allowed us to progress in terms of where we are, in terms of our standing. But I've never sensed from the players that they've lost belief in what we're doing. It's very easy to, because there's a lot of noise when things don't go well. But today was about doubling down on our football principles, and we did that. No way on earth can Spurs ever be arrogant and overconfident going into a game, because they have, we've said it already, have handed 2 teams their first Premier League wins of the season. As in teams down the bottom in Palace and Ipswich. they can't afford to go to any game thinking, yep, we've got this, lads, so we've won this one. It's like, no way, this is Tottenham Hotspur. It doesn't work like that. But there is something growing within this group. A lot of the interviews, they refer to each other as family. And that's important. That's when you get a tight-knit group, like they used to have in the Pochettino era. That was when they would also use that word, family. They love Postecoglou football because it kind of goes towards, it brings out a lot of the stuff that they love about football, about the way they play. And you can see that in the goals. The goals are just beautiful that they're scoring. And this is kind of what Spurs now need to do. We don't just want to look back in, 5-10 years ago. Oh, do you remember that night they beat City 4-0? Oh, wasn't that a great night? We want to look back on this and say, that was the night it all began. That was the night really the Postecoglou era hit a new level. That's what we want to look at it as. And hopefully that would be lovely to be able to do. But it's on Spurs and their players and the club, I think, in a January window as well, to continue to back him and continue to turn this squad into a Postecoglou squad. Ready-made players, some would be nice as well. And yeah, it's a collective effort now to find the consistency that Spurs need, because we've seen how good they can be now. We've seen that ceiling. We've seen that it is very, very high up there. And Spurs need to be reaching that more consistently rather than kind of going like they're on some kind of bungee rope going up and down. But yeah, what a brilliant night. That was great fun. And it was great fun to talk about it rather than sitting there going, no, this is so bad. Brilliant. Even Indy just barked. I don't know if you can hear that because he was so excited about the performance. He's just reliving some of the goals in his mind.